Oh, hello, and welcome to Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
And I'm Dr. Leviathan.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories most creepy and most pasta. Tonight's episode, Been Drowned. So, that's what we're doing today. Dr. Leviathan has read the story this week, and I've reread it or re-listened to it at Mr. CreepyPasta, the YouTube channel. He's got the full thing in actually several segments as a playlist that you can listen to if you want, or you can go read it at creepypasta.wiki. And Been Drowned. It's based off of it's a story about Majora's Mask, or a cartridge that's haunted by an entity supposedly named Ben. Just for a quick thing, Majora's Mask is the direct sequel to Ocarina of Time for the N64, another Legend of Zelda game. And it's pretty well... I don't know, it's a fan favorite for a lot of people. It was made about, I think it was actually made like a year, like it was actually released a year after the release of the Ocarina of Time. Like it took about a year for them to make it because it was originally an expansion for Ocarina of Time, and then they were told they had to do an actual sequel. So they just took a bunch of assets from the other game, and then threw it together and created this creepy story. Because there's a lot of creepy undertones and like horror undertones to the story of Majora's Mask. And one of the focal points is like the one level in it, the Ikana Canyon, which is where all the undead and ghosts and stuff like that are on the map. And you get a song in there called the Elegy of Emptiness, and that creates a statue that is a twisted persona of whatever form you are when you play it. In the creepiest one that people have said is the Link one, where it's just it's a version of Link just standing straight and looking dead, like forward, and with like dead eyes and like a creepy smile, and it's just kind of unnerving. Like it's a lot more unnerving than the other ones, I guess, because the other ones are like other like races when he can transform into other races. So that's kind of like that's what Majora's Mask is, and that's and again, it's a really popular game. So somebody decided to make a series of creepy stories in the series of entries called Been Drowned, or the haunted Majora's Mask cartridge. So, and again, for those of you guys out there that are just listening to it or just starting to listen, CreepyPasta, it's the internet's campfire stories, the scary ones. It derives from the term copy and paste, which was then slangified to copy pasta, and then for the creepy ones, it's called creepypasta. So, little short internet scary stories. And so, Been Drowned, it starts off with the first entry where this guy is talking about how he was looking for a nostalgic kick after getting an old N64 system, and so he decided to go driving around yard sales and pick up games like 007 and Super Mario Brothers or whatever, and a couple of controllers, and then he comes to this. He's about to leave the neighborhood when he comes across one last table at this old house. And he goes to it, and there's an old man there, and he asks him if there's any games there, and he's like, oh, well, hang on, I'll go check. And he goes waddling off, and as he's off looking around, this guy who I believe we later find out is named Matt, though his username is Jebdasu, some kind of odd name.
No, it's a screen handle, so
yeah.
very normal.
But I think his name later on is like we find out it's actually his name's Matt. But regardless, so he's looking at through the other yard sale stuff, finds that it has a bunch of weird like psychological, like one of those psychiatric like ink blots, and he swears that.
Oh yeah, he's got the Rorschach.
Yeah, the Rorschachs. That's what they're called. Yeah, and he's the last one. He like really unnerves him, and then like suddenly the old man's right behind him with a box of old video games, and lo and behold, he finds Majora's Mask cartridge that he was hoping to find in these garage sales. It's really scratched up, like the sticker's almost gone, but he has one, and he gets it for really. I think he buys it and is heading out, and the guy apparently says goodbye, Ben. To the guy, and so then he thinks that's kind of weird, and he drives off and gets home, puts the cartridge into the system, starts playing, and on the starting menu he sees Ben, which is what he figures is what the old man was talking about, was maybe his grandson or something like that. Decides to leave it alone, doesn't want to delete it or anything like that, just leaves it alone, starts a new save file, and starts playing, and that's where stuff starts happening, is that he starts noticing these weird glitches, like the Song of Healing in the game, which is supposed to be this harmonious tune, is reversed and playing like across the world, and the streets are not there, and it just shows a sky below him, but he's able to walk around. And there's no enemies, there's no NPCs in the town. He just starts off in the town itself, and the story kind of goes from there. Is that he starts being chased by, or stalked by the statue of the Elegy of Emptiness for Link, and it's just a lot of weird glitchy stuff starts happening in the game, and then over the course of like I think five entries, without going into a lot of, I don't want to go into a lot of detail because you can check these out at creepypasta.wiki or go listen to it at Mr. Creepypasta on the YouTube channel. But yeah, essentially, like he starts conversing or starts being stalked, and then later starts conversing with this entity named Ben that seems to be stuck in the game. So, before we continue further, Leviathan, any input? Because I believe you're kind of fresh to both the story and both the Legend of Zelda video games for like the N64 and stuff. So, you were kind of saying earlier that you didn't really know a lot about
the first half of it is when, he's playing the game and he's talking about all of this, like, crazy stuff that's happening in the game. And it's really well described, but it was completely wasted on me because the last Zelda game I played was Link to the Past on the Super Nintendo, so I had no connection to all of this. I mean,
no familiarity, no context.
Yeah, the author was clearly really, like, he really knew the game Majora's Mask to the point where, he's describing really subtle differences, and I'm just like, I don't even know what you're talking about, and I don't care. That was really... It's not really anything to complain about or harp on. It's really just a matter of half the story I don't care about because I've never played Majora's Mask, and that's really it because, I'm sure it was, like, I'm sure if I had have read Majora's Mask, it might have worked on me, but I never played it, so I'm reading this, and I'm like, good God, this is just wasted on me.
Yeah. Like, you're probably not, you have no context to what the levels are and stuff like that.
Exactly. So when he's talking about how it's all different, I'm like, well, I don't know that.
Yeah.
So that's just where it was for me. However, once you get past that point and the actual...
Because it starts going into the...
more supernatural stuff starts happening, I got immediately brought right back in, and I was like, okay, you know what, this is actually a pretty cool concept.
Yeah.
But that's really it.
Yeah, because that's the thing about this story, is because it was made by a fan of the game. A lot of all the fans are gonna get into it if they read it, but then it kind of leaves out any of those readers of CreepyPasta that aren't a fan or that never really played Legend of Zelda.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'm in the minority. I'm sure I'm in the minority on that of people who read it, because I mean most people, aren't like me. They're not reading it for, the same reason I am. So they're not even... People who read it are either going to stop reading it if they've never played Majora's Mask, or would just bypass it completely because they never played Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
So
and that's what I find a lot.
Whereas with me, it's like, okay, well, I've got to get it read, so...
Yeah. It's kind of the same thing with me. I went on... there was a couple months back... I went on a binge of just looking for video game creepypastas. I was looking for ones that, let's see if there's a Call of Duty creepypasta. And I found a couple. They're not very good, but I found a couple. But yeah, and that's really what they do, is they describe the game. But if you're not a fan of the game, you're not really going to get the full experience of what the story's trying to do.
But at the same time, I'm not going to fault Ben Drowned for that because, you've played Majora's Mask. You liked Ben Drowned a lot more than I did. And it's not that I didn't like it. It's just that the in-depth... the in-depth descriptions about playing this possessed game cartridge, I'm just like, you could really just shorten it up and get on with things. It really dragged because I didn't want to be reading it in the first place. But
I kind of made you.
Well, no. It was the fact that I don't want to be reading such detailed description about a game I've never played.
Yeah.
So if it had been, maybe edited down a little bit and, not to harp on last week's point, but if it had gone through another draft, it would have probably been edited down, and it would have been a lot more manageable and reached a wider audience of people who haven't necessarily played Majora's Mask.
Now,
that's probably how it would have gone, and I wouldn't have been so stabbing on the first half.
Fair enough. Now you say that about all the detail and stuff like that. I actually, when I was going over the story for this episode, I hadn't actually read or watched all because there's video clips that come with the story on the CreepyPasta site, or I guess wherever it was originally posted. And I remember only seeing clips of those ones when I first read it. I actually just read through the entire thing. And then this time around, I actually decided to read the captions and then watch the videos intertwined. And all I can say is if you were to watch those clips, they pretty much are summarized in the content. I
hear you, but I was trying to
you were
get
rushed.
It read.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't rushed. I had lots of time, but I was trying to get through it.
Yeah.
And watching a video that is a screen capture of what I just read, A, and B is of a game I've never played.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'm not going to waste my time clicking the link. Yeah. I'm just going to, bypass it, because watching what I just read is not going to make what I just read any better. Again, something that's probably cool for you, someone who played Majora's Mask, and you could be like, oh yeah, I see how that's all different.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and actually, honestly, the first time I read it, I actually, like I said, like I kind of skimmed, like I didn't even really pay much attention to the video clips. I just read through the entire story, rereading it, and listening to and watching the videos now. The experience gives a little bit more depth into like what exactly the guy was going through when he was playing this game, but it's not necessarily important to have them. So they're really good edited. Like they're really well edited.
Like the whatchamacallit, the image for Jeff the Killer. You know, the image of Jeff. It's not necessary to make the story better, and again, Jeff would have been better if the story hadn't been written around that image, but regardless, listen to last week's episode for that. But it's to help it helps, these video clips help provide the ambiance, and, what's a good scary story without a little ambiance.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a reason we tell stories around campfires and not in well-lit office buildings.
That might be something I want to test sometime. Anyway.
Well, I mean, it's just the way it is. It works better in a creepier environment.
Yeah, exactly.
So having these videos of this, just wrong.
To actually listen to the Song of Healing reversed is actually still is quite unnerving, but especially if you have context, though. You need context for it. Though.
Exactly, and, my on top of just wanting to get this over with because I didn't have, like I said, half the story didn't work on me, and that's when you get most of the links to the video clips.
Yeah.
The video capture was never going to help me.
Okay.
It just wasn't. Hearing the Song of Healing reversed, I don't have the context. It's not the story's fault. Again, I cannot, stress that enough. It's, it's my failing, not the stories.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, the story goes on. He's reading, like he's doing these playthroughs, trying to figure out what's going on. Being stalked by this entity named Ben. The file names change. He dies in really strange ways in the game.
Files just completely change.
Yeah. There's a point in the game where he gets trapped in this weird glitchy area where everybody, no matter where he goes, no matter what he reads, it says you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done that. And it's all because he sang the song of the Elegy of Emptiness, which is the song that invokes the statue. And eventually, like he actually starts getting stalked on his laptop too because of the capture card he has for the game itself, for getting the screen captures. And it kind of goes a ghost in the shell, or like a ghost in the machine kind of thing, where the supernatural entity that's strapped in the cartridge is freed and is moved to a new medium, which is
it now has both, right?
Yeah,
that was what I took from it, because he goes back and plays the game and it's still mucked up.
Yeah, and then he's told to go to this Cleverbot website, and he's able to talk to Ben a little bit more directly, and get some answers, or have some creepy conversation with this entity that knows, like, it isn't just an AI bot talking to him.
It's not just a bucket cartridge.
Exactly, not just a bucket cartridge, not just a clever bot talking to him, like spewing out random sentences based off of his questions or whatever. It's actually some kind of supernatural entity.
It's a back and forth conversation.
Yeah, it's telling him things that only he'd know from playing that game and stuff like that. So, we kind of find that out. Whereas this Ben character, who we also find out, like, through his own investigations of the old man and whatnot, was that 8 years prior to these events, this kid named Ben drowned in a very sad way, or like was killed.
Yeah, as the title suggests, Ben drowned. Kind of didn't really. That was probably a poor choice for a title. just because.
Well, I think the original I looked when I
Ben
first found it. It
Drowned.
wasn't actually called Ben Drowned. The one I remember was always just the Haunted Majora's Mask cartridge.
See, now, and that would have been a much better. That's just a better title because it keeps people like me away, draws people like you in, and
I think
doesn't give away the fact that Ben's dead.
Yeah. I think the name changed probably due to popularity. Like, people knew, like, at least on the internet, like, because this is one of those top 10 creepypasta stories. Eventually, like, the name got changed to Ben Drown because enough people on the internet knew it, so they just started referring to it when they copied and pasted it. It's like, oh, it's Ben. Like, his name is definitely well known in creepypasta circles, and on certain other and other internet circles. To be regardless,
Fair enough. It's still,
I mean, like,
a silly thing because
Yeah.
I read it for the first time and
you had no idea why. Like, yeah,
You know, I'm like, oh yeah, look, it's the name's Ben in the thing. Ha ha ha.
Yep.
Yep, but I know Ben drowned. I know because that's the title.
yeah.
So,
And like I said, the story goes on. He's pretty early on. He starts, or not too early on, but about maybe entry 2 or 3. He starts. It starts the spiral, where as he's investigating, figuring out what the hell's going on. He starts getting more and more reclusive. He stops going to school because he's a college student. He stops going to classes.
from what I gathered, he never leaves his room.
Yeah, like his roommate, who actually becomes an entry participant or a participant to the entries later on, says that he stopped living in that room, in the dorm room they were in, because it was creeping him out, like the fact that he never left his room, he barely ate, he barely slept, he always looked really horrible. And eventually,
Did he mention anything about the smell?
I don't
I
recall.
want to say he did, but that might have been something else I watched or played or something.
I don't remember anything about a smell, but
Regardless.
Yeah. And eventually, it gets to the point where the roommate does jump onto the entries because Matt or Jabdusul, I apologize if I'm getting that name wrong. I'm just going to continue to refer to him as Matt. He mentions that Matt finally just up and left, went home. His parents came
and got him.
and grabbed him because he was doing so horrible. He looked sickly. He looked gaunt. He gave him a cartridge. I don't think he gave him the game cartridge.
No,
he gave him a
gave
flash
him
drive.
A flash drive, and I think it had the video capture
and
instructions and
a suicide note almost, by the sounds of it. By the end, but the last couple, well, to me,
I never got that.
Okay, well,
but yeah,
kind of like that kind of stuff, kind of very almost like you see in some horror movies or horror stories, he gives him this thing and just gives him instructions, and then just that character is broken and leaves the scene.
Yeah.
And it is transferred onto this new guy, or the new guy acts as a messenger between a liaison between the audience and the victim.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out something here because I believe I think it was Candle Cove that I originally harped on this. Here we have 2 different posters.
Yep.
On the same, blog or whatnot, and I'm actually led to believe that they're 2 different people. And, that's handled well. I felt like our new poster was
a separate character.
A new individual. I don't know, maybe, the original author got someone else to write it. There's 1,000 ways you could have gone around it. But it's really just it was really simple just from the get-go. It's I'm told this is a new guy, not just reading.
Yeah, not just reading and then suddenly, oh, this guy's saying he's a different name, so I guess this must be a different person.
I'm not saying that it's the same situation as Candle Cove. It's just a matter of this is kind of what I'm talking about when I say I want like, if it's going to be done in a blog form with multiple people posting, this way makes it feel like there was... This Ben Drowned made it feel like there was another poster.
Yeah.
Not just...
That there was a little bit... It wasn't just the one guy. There was multiple people.
Yeah.
A little bit more involved, but...
Well, there was... Yeah, it was handled well.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was something that, because of reading Candle Cove, I noted, and I was like, you know, I've now seen it done well.
Yeah.
And I just figured I should bring it up because, you know, I brought it up when it was done poorly.
Okay. So the guy gets the flash drive, sends out his entry. It's like, look, I don't, just to ease anybody here, like, I got this from Matt or Judesu or Judecible. I'm gonna keep screwing that name up.
His roommate.
Yeah, his roommate. I don't know anything what's going on. I might look into it, but otherwise, here's what I was given. I'm putting it out here for you guys. I don't know really much any more than you guys do.
Yeah.
And to his audience. And then we get some more video footage of the creepy glitches, and it's another entry, but it's all done by Matt, and it's kind of like documentation, like dates during the last couple of entries, but like in more short form. Like,
yeah.
And things that were going on that he didn't mention in his... They were like notes that he took during the whole thing before he started writing up the entries. And a few things were missed. Like, he was going... When he would go out and grab food, he thought he saw the elegy statue in a bush or, like, out in the street, like, somewhere in the world. And he always got this feeling that he was being watched. And he goes on with that stuff, or documentation. So we kind of see his spiral into madness.
Yeah, and this was where, like, that's the point where this story actually started to draw me in, because that's when you also start to get where the idea of this thing that's haunting this cartridge and has moved to his computer, that's where you start to get the idea that, like, it's genuinely posing a danger.
Yeah. And he starts getting tricked, or he starts getting manipulated by it, because...
Well, it starts mucking with him because it starts changing his... this is where you find out it's been changing his posts, and it's been altering, what he's been saying. So he's reading, he types out one thing, and then somewhere between when he's typed it and when it goes out there for everyone else to read, it's been changed to omit certain things, or, kind of cover the presence of whatever this entity was. And
and we still, actually, that's the other thing that, as you get further into the movie, into the creepypasta, we don't, we're led to believe it's the ghost of this kid, Ben.
I never thought that. I actually always thought it was something that
I remember
had a demon or some sort of other third-party entity that had also killed Ben.
Okay, well, see, I thought I initially, when I first started reading the book, or the God damn it, when I first started reading the story, I initially thought it was the ghost of Ben. But then as it went on, I remember thinking, it's like, all right, well, this is not really Ben. This is something that's being a facade, or using Ben as a facade.
Yeah, I think
and then
I think the original Matt, if that's his name, was actually said, oh, you killed Ben and took his name at some point. He asked that of the entity, but I don't think you get a clear answer on that.
Yeah. And so that's kind of we're led to believe that this Ben character is something else more than human, more than than some undead human or some ghost of a human.
Yeah.
So, and it's even later confirmed, it kind of gets a little bit more creepier by the end of the story, where we're given, the final notes of Matt, and it seems like, I don't know, to me, when I finished reading the last little bit of it, it seemed like he was either, this is going to be my last entry, I'm going to go away. I'm not coming back. Blah, blah, blah. So kind of to me, it sounded like he was going to off himself or something like that. But it also went further that like near the very end of the story, to me, it seemed like himself had been trapped in the game or something.
What it felt like to me was that it's like, okay, this whole thing, like this adventure that I'm on, not that he was really loving it or anything, but the events that are happening to me, they've already happened to someone else, and he died, Ben drowned. I'm going down the same path to try and end it, have this
Stopped now,
keep others from doing it, yada yada yada. But it seemed more like he was aware that there's a real chance that I'm going to die too.
Yeah,
that's what it kind of felt like to me. Was
so you're like he was like he thought he might be like he might not make it.
He realized that there's a chance I'm going to die because I'm seeing it through to the end.
Okay, I gotcha. So, but both had similar yet different conclusions to what the ending meant.
Yeah. Now, that being said, maybe I was reading a little bit more nobility into it than I...
He does seem to kind of have that, where it's just like, well, I'm glad this happened to me, and I was able to figure out a way to deal with it and stop Ben here and now.
Yeah.
This actually happens in another... This kind of like think about it now, after reading it and talking about it, I'm kind of getting the same vibe that I from another story that we'll probably review in another episode, where it's the same kind of situation. A game is haunted by some kind of creature or entity, and this guy who has a nostalgic trip for it starts playing and realizes all the horrible differences and stuff like that. It's a very similar. It seems to be like it seems like it caught on when it's one of these games, either this one or some other ones, first got posted and started getting passed around. The idea of a haunted video game that's haunted by either a vengeful spirit or another entity seems to be a trope that's kind of catching on in the creepypasta circles. I think that's pretty much where it ends. Is that we are given the information from the flash drive, and that's the last of that story. Is that. And the couple of the videos that are actually posted after the last bit of the entry is just some video footage of him wandering through the creepy video game world that's been twisted, and then it cuts to black, and it's just like I'm free now or something like that, like some kind of menacing, underlying phrase of I'm free or. I think there's even a message that says help me, kind of thing. So it's like Matt might be stuck in the game or something else, or maybe or maybe this is all again the Ben entity trying to latch onto a new host or a new victim.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't watch the video, so I can't really.
Yeah, well, I made a point to watch them recently just because this was coming up, so I figured I should probably get fully into this, and because this was one of my favorite creepypastas. So, and we'll actually get into a little side note in a second because it's coming up. Now, here's so I would recommend this to anybody who's getting into creepypasta, because it is one of the top rated ones. What's your opinion on it?
I would recommend it based on only if they were a fan of Majora's Mask or, had fond memories of it. Excuse me, anyone else, I would honestly skip to, I would say that, A, you shouldn't read it, B, if you're going to,
maybe get some context.
Skip the first half of it.
Okay.
Because, basically once, Matt leaves college and goes home and that second poster takes over and you start getting the short form of everything that just happened, that's a better place to start because it's in less detail, so you don't have to sit through all of this, just You know, look at how much I know about Majora's Mask. That's great. Look at how much I don't care.
Yeah.
There's less of that to sit through, and it's just more to the point. It's faster.
It really did seem like just kind of a paraphrasing of the last couple of entries. Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed that last night.
And then you do get some new information. So really, that's my recommendation on it. Read the whole thing if you're a fan. If you're not a fan,
read the second half.
Yeah, read the second half, because you get a nice, recap of what's happened, what has already happened, and you get all of the new stuff that wasn't in there anyway. Yeah. And, you just get a more to-the-point story.
Okay. So, all in all, though, it's definitely like an improvement on the last story we reviewed.
This is...
Oh, yeah, like what? Like,
it's
what
not
do you think
my favorite so far, just because, again, I
don't
care about Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
I don't care about Zelda games.
And that's kind of my,
But at the same time, I liked it because this is the first time where I actually felt like we were dealing with something supernatural.
Whereas the other ones, we've either been dealing with psychosis or
it hasn't really felt like, very supernatural. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I have my beliefs, and they just kind of fly, the whole supernatural aspect flies in the face of those, but I still enjoy all of my fiction. Ghost stories and all of my monster movies and stuff like that,
Well, really, that's one of the reasons why humans make up horror, like ghost stories and whatnot, or scary stories, is because it allows us to look into that element of the unknown, or allows us to like it may not happen in real life, but we get to escape. It's an escapism to the supernatural in literature, right? You're looking at me very. Okay, fine.
There's lots of reasons why ghost stories and whatnot are written. It's honestly just a matter of, they're fun. For me, like, the reason I like to read them, it's just that they're more fun when you get, the crazy supernatural. Like I said, once this one was coming across as some sort of, otherworldly entity, I was just a lot more drawn in, because I was like, okay, it's not just, a kid's ghost or a glitchy game cartridge. It was a lot more fun for me at that moment, because basically the lid had been blown off as to the potential possibilities.
Yeah.
And, like, once you've got that all sorted out, well, once you, kick that lid off, it's just, my imagination can go crazy, and, I can just go down all of the avenues of possible, basically shenanigans that this thing can get up to. And that's fun for me.
Okay.
Whereas, it's a ghost in a cartridge, and it's basically attached to the one dude, because he played the game. I don't care. Well, I don't care as much, because I'm not that guy.
Yeah, that's not what you're really interested in.
Yeah.
You're more interested in, what, some kind of otherworldly entity? Like, that's not a ghost? Like,
something
what is it?
Something that might have bigger plans, or
yeah.
what have you. Like, it's just a lot more possibility. It's going to screw with this mad guy. It's going to mess him up royally. But then it's going to be done with him.
And move on.
And it's going to do other things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, just, again, it scratched that itch a little bit better than anything else that we've done, that we've covered so far. And I mean, this is what, 4th episode, so
yeah.
I'm sure I'll get lots of that itch scratched, but
yeah, we're just getting started, as it were. So we've got your view on it. My view, I love this, but that's because I'm a huge Zelda fan. I love nostalgia, and this kind of touched on that for me, with the at least for the first part of it. Just getting to like remember the old Zelda games, and then like giving that extra twisting it even further. It's just like, well, that's really wow. So I really liked it that way. I've read this probably once or twice in the past, and then I read it now, and I've like seen all the artwork and all the theories and stuff that people have thrown out online, because it's like Jeff the Killer. There's a lot of stuff that fans have done for it. I actually had a very interesting encounter where I went to grab the newest Zelda game for the DS, Link Between Worlds, and there's I'd heard earlier on before getting it that there was some Majora's Mask cameos in it and stuff like that, or there's some like kind of like tributes and whatnot to it in the game. So I was kind of excited about that, and so I started to play. I went to grab the game from our local game store. The clerk asked if I wanted a used copy because it was cheaper. Why not?
Save money, right?
Yeah, so I grabbed a used copy of the game, went home, probably didn't get around to playing it for another couple of days. But when I finally like booted up and started up, I'm just like, oh, cool, that's a nice little cinematic for the intro. And then it comes up to the intro to the main menu with the save files, and I push the DS back, and I'm just like, nope, because the first save file I see is Ben. So that there was like a couple of seconds of recognition. It's like, oh, Ben, nope. And then like a couple more seconds go by. I'm just like, pull out my camera, my cell phone, take some photo of it, move to the second save file. Just not going to touch that. I don't want to delete it because that's freaking awesome. But at the same time, I don't want to get into that shit. I'm just going to start playing the game on another save file. So what I'm thinking would happen there is either somebody in town is also a fan of Ben and decided to do that, and then because it was it was just Ben, and then I even looked at what had happened, and nothing had happened. Like he just made that name file, and that's it. So either somebody named Ben started the game, decided they weren't going to play it, and send it back, or somebody knew about the story.
Oh, well, I'm trading it in anyway, so let's have some fun.
Exactly, yeah. Delete everything, all the other save files that he was doing or whatever, and then just wrote in Ben, or the clerk at the GameStop, because they're gamers that work as clerks at a game store. They might have known about the internet story. So that's kind of my theory. I originally thought I should does this because I'd heard there's a bunch of tributes to Majora's Mask. Like, is this Nintendo screwing with people? Like, have they heard about this internet story? I don't know. I didn't find anything on that when I went and actually did some research on it. So that's how much of a fan I am of that. Like leave it to the fanatic of this game and of this story to get a game cartridge from the same franchise and end up with a Ben save file. So maybe someday I'll get Leviathan or myself to screen cap a playthrough of that that save file, and we'll see what happens. But for now, I'm just fine. I'm not deleting it because that's too awesome to delete. But at the same time, I'm not touching it right now.
And
yes,
two things. One that I just forgot, and one that I just have to mention. First off, this one is also really well written.
Yeah, that's actually what I meant to ask about you, because what do you think?
You always ask. This time I'm remembering. It was probably part of the reason I enjoyed it as much as I did, because quite frankly, just based on the fact that relies so heavily on something I've never experienced. I shouldn't have enjoyed it, and yet I ended up, in fact, enjoying it. So, yeah, it was well written enough. Again, especially that second half where everything's shortened. And so, also part of the reason I'd probably recommend the second half to people. And also, because I read it from the CreepyPasta wiki page, and I laughed my ass off. Once I was done, I scrolled down a little further, and the first damn comment I saw, I think it was the first one, was like, fake! I was like, no shit.
Oh, somebody! Oh my! Oh god!
Yeah, there was actually arguments going on in the comments, and
that's the one. That's the other side of. That's one part
laughed
of the.
my ass off. I couldn't help myself. I was actually, I was sitting there. The girlfriend was beside me watching TV, and I'm laughing, and she's like, oh, it's so funny. I'm like, okay, so I'm doing this creepypasta thing. I've just finished this one, and by God. It was it's done. I can say that. But then I got to the comments, and fake, and there are people arguing, and we all had a laugh at the commenters' expense at that point.
Yeah, that's the other side of creepypasta stories, is that there is part of the fan base that dispute that sometimes there's some people, sometimes you'll get people in this community that kind of take it a little too seriously. Or there's ones that'll troll the other side, where it's just like, oh, totally fake. It's like, I can't, like, this was, blah, blah, blah. It's like, just go overboard with, like, yes, we know it's fake. You don't have to just blatantly say that. Like, it's part of the immersion thing. But at the same time, some people do take it too far, and it's like, well, no, it's not, what if it's not fake? What if it's real? What if there is, like, my Ben experience with the DS. I know it's fiction. I know it's fake. But just to have, like, that, I wasn't even thinking of Ben Drowned when I got that game. Aside from, like, what was just lingering in my mind. I just remember looking at the save file and I was like, oh god, no. So, yeah, creepypasta, it's all fiction. It's all fake. But they're just fun horror stories, like, scary stories. And some people, unfortunately, do take it a little too far. And some people love the troll.
I enjoyed it, and I laughed my arse off. It was definitely just like, because I guess I hadn't actually read any of the comments on any of the other stories now, because we've done what, like 6 stories now. We did 3 the first time around.
Right? Yeah. About 6 stories then, yeah.
So I guess I've just never gotten around, or like I just never scrolled down far enough to bother reading any of the comments, but yeah, this is the first time, and I had a good chuckle at everyone's expense on that one.
Yeah. Usually I've read a couple of comment like things for other stories, and usually it's just like, oh, this is a really good story, 10 out of 10, or 7 out of 10, or worst story ever, 0 out of 10, Jeff the Killer. or other ones like I've even seen that in like ones that I thought were really well written and whatnot. And people are just like, oh, this is so stupid, blah, 0 out of 10. And just people trying to troll.
Yeah, but I've seen some of your favorite movies, so
that's true.
That's not surprising.
I love those movies, but I can acknowledge that I'm not the best choice for entertainment. Because I go in loving a lot of stuff. That's really, I guess, I thought this would actually might be longer, but I guess that's really all has to be said, because I don't think there's anything else we have to be is there anything that you'd like to say about Ben Drowned?
No, except just reiterating the fact that it was good. Skip to the second half because you get all the same information. It's just nice, almost like point form.
Yeah. So pretty much what we've been saying.
Yeah.
I think at some point I might do a special episode where I take some of the because unless you're willing to jump in with me on that, there's a couple of other Zelda creepypastas that I want to look into, but they're all really short. Yeah. So I mean, So that's one of the other reasons why I liked this. I wanted to do this episode thing with you, because there are some things that you don't know about. So it would be interesting to see a fresh mind or a fresh view on something that I love, or I have a connection with. They would like to get that kind of back and forth contrast of views for something.
And actually, a point I'd like to make: I don't think that Ben Drowned works because it relies on Majora's Mask. I think it works. I think it would have worked if they had have taken like, Majora's Mask is obviously, one of the author's favorite games.
Yeah.
So, I think it would have worked if he had have used any other game he wanted to.
Yeah.
He could have, just gone to a, EB Games and just pointed randomly at the, shelf and just been like, okay, that's the game in this one.
And certainly people have tried to emulate this kind of story time and again since this story came out with other games. So, a creepy game that is haunted by some kind of entity or whatnot. So yeah, like it's definitely like it works. It may not work all the time, but if it's well written, you could pretty much just substitute the game with any other game.
And this is that's part of the thing. Like, I didn't have to. Yes, it would have helped, the ambiance if I had been familiar with Majora's Mask. But once it got down into the meat of it, it didn't matter that I had played it or not, because it, it started. Well, it became something more.
Yeah.
And it just happened in natural progression. That's probably the big thing about it, is that, in the end, I didn't have to have played it to get it.
Yeah.
Whereas
you still got it.
I'm sure some of these other ones based on that utilize video game.
They probably rely more on the game's content than
exactly
than what this story presented. Yeah, and actually thinking about it now, this does share a lot of similarities with other like story types. Like I had mentioned to you earlier, the Dionysi house, where like off the show, where it's like this. The whole story is a bunch of like different blogs posts revolving around this very similar looking house. And people go in and they start encountering really weird anomalies and stuff like that in the house, and eventually they end up disappearing because of it. And that one, like, that kind of came to mind when you were talking about like the different, like, the post styles, like the two different people that were posting entries.
Yeah.
You get that same kind of feel with the blog posts, the different blog posts from different characters in that other story. So again, that's one we'll try to look into. It's a little bit lengthier than some of the creepypastas we've looked at previously, so it might be a little while before we get into that one. But yeah, it's the same thing. Like, it's a similar. I'd like to say it's a common thing that happened. The common part of the writing for this creepypasta stuff. So I don't know where else I was going with that. So
you mean like the blog format?
Yeah, the blog format where like they introduce different characters. You can actually you can definitely, based off the writing style. Like, the writing style does change from character to character a little bit better than, say, like you were saying with Candle Cove. Like, and this one like seems to be a little bit better than, like, for doing that, where like you're able to differentiate between characters.
Yeah.
So, and that's a common thing with creepypasta, because there's so much of a community there that want to partake. Because this game, I guess, the story was also partially a kind of like an ARG or an alternate reality game, where the person is communicating with his audience through his entries, or at least it appears that way. I'm not sure if that was the case when it originally was posted, or if that's just how he emulated it.
Yeah, I did kind of feel that I missed something.
Maybe like some kind of interaction
when I did.
Yeah.
But
regardless, though, it still works.
Yeah.
So.
And part of that is that another part of it is the fact that when it ends, it's up in the air.
Yeah. It's left to the imagination.
Yeah, there isn't some sort of like gruesomely horrifying dead body found. There isn't anything.
It's just,
there's no sense of finality to it.
So,
it's just kind of like, okay, so here's where we are, and there's no more posts.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun.
Yeah. All right. So if you have any opinions that if you disagree with us or if you agree with us, if you have anything that you'd like to say to us, you can leave questions or comments under wherever you can post them. Either wherever these are posted, there's a comment section. You can post them there. You can also send comments and emails to eldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS @gmail.com, where you can also send us suggestions for other creepypasta that you want us to discuss or read. Leviathan's just getting started. I'm always open to reading new creepypastas that I haven't read. I think our next episode will probably be one that neither of us have read yet. Just to leave you in the dark with that. Until next time, I'm Review Cultist.
And I'm Dr. Leviathan.
And this has been El Dente Rigamortis. Sleep well.
Thank you.